What's happening, people? Very good afternoon to you all. This is your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, here for episode number 74 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast, man. We're delighted to be joined, as always, by the main man in the building, man, Mr. Controversial, Laurie from AFTV in the house.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How's it going over there?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. In the AFTV studios, we're all recovering from our disappointing performance in the football yesterday. That's Arsenal, for those who don't know. But yeah, man. Football, like sport, is one of those things where you live to fight another day. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next game coming up at the weekend. So yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? You know what I mean? The games come around quick and fast. So it's disappointing result yesterday, but we got Saturday to look forward to. And we're still in a decent position, as you know, in the league. So still all to play for. It's still in our hands at fourth spot.
It's still in our hands, man. Yeah, not really much more for me to say. You pretty much said everything I needed to about that. But let's talk some boxing, man. We got another great episode for you guys today. As always, everybody that enters the room, hit that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let us know your feedback. Give us any questions that you might need or any comments or responses. We'll happily reply to them here. So shout out, first of all, to my man, IB. He's put here, good evening, gents. Good evening to you, sir. Big up Jerry in the chat. He's put hello, everyone. Hello to you as well, mate. And Francisco has said here, break it down, brothers. We know that. Big up Francisco in the building every time, man. There's only one place to start. There's only one place to start, man. We both called it. We all knew. The people in the trade knew how great of a fight this will be. And let me just say, man, it's going to be hard to top that fight this year between Lee Wood and Michael Conlan. Absolutely fantastic, dramatic, had everything that you wanted in that sort of fight. The ring entrances, the occasion, just the ending. You know, thankfully, Michael Conlan is okay. But quickly break it down before I get your opinion on it, Laurie. Fantastic fight. Great atmosphere.
Yeah, one hell of a fight. I think the only slight disappointment for that fight, as far as that particular fight was concerned, was because it was on the DAZN app. Then a lot of your so-called casual fans wouldn't have seen it. They may have seen it subsequently, but I'm talking about on the night. But yeah, man, everything else was it's tremendous fight, tremendous occasion, tremendous atmosphere. And shout out to the fighters, man. That fight lived up to the billing and some. You know, it's a tremendous fight. I obviously had predicted a Conlan points win, and it was very close to being realised. But fair play to Lee Wood, man. You know what I mean? He hung in there. He stuck it out, and he was rewarded with a win.
Yeah. I think
an emphatic win as well.
I thought Michael Conlan started brilliantly, man. He was just, started off fantastic, sharp, dropped Lee Wood heavily. I said it in my breakdown after the fight. I did a video. And first of all, before I continue, apologize for the lack of videos this week, man. It has been absolutely manic at work throughout the week. I haven't had time to do any sort of videos, man. So I wanted to do quite a few this week, but unfortunately wasn't able to. It's just literally backs against the wall stuff here at work. I'm sure everybody here can relate to that. But anyway, the fight itself was just, Conlan started off fantastic for me. I was thinking to myself, he's showing levels here. Lee Wood might not be able to keep up with him. First round, dropped him heavily. I thought that he might have been slightly unconscious and then he hit the floor and woke up. That's how great of a shot it was. And Lee Wood, during that fight, was fighting to stay in it rather than compete. And I thought, wow, this is really hard for him, but he's showing all the sort of guts you need to stay in this fight, man. And then the way how he dragged himself back into it, began to take over slightly. And then towards the end, there was that controversial knockdown in the 11th. And then the 12th, man, it was just, the atmosphere, like I said, it was like a bear pit type atmosphere in there. The way how it ended, the concern that was there for Michael Conlan afterwards. I was telling people, Laurie, that it slightly reminded me of Nigel Benn and Gerald McClellan. Just the way how that ended, because there was a lot of concern around the ring afterwards. And shout out to the British Boxing Board of Control as well. We criticised them on here, what I have recently, but they're second to none when it comes to, you know, treating a fighter that's injured like that. Do you know what I mean? So shout out to them. But what an ending.
Well, yeah, the emergency services, which the British Boxing Board of Control are responsible for making sure they're on site. Yeah, they did a great job with Conlon. They were there quickly, managed to revive him. Apparently, when they were trying to get the mask on him, he was instinctively removing it from his face. So that took a while for him to like placate him and get him, you know, in stationary so they could apply the masks. But yeah, man. I mean, obviously, when the knockout happened, because it's interesting, because when I watched at the time, it looked like the sheer weight of the punches and Lee Wood's forward momentum had almost kind of punched him through the ropes. But when I saw the close-up again, he was actually out, hit by a right hand and a left hook, out before he actually fell through the ropes. So that means that when he was going through the ropes, he didn't have any, it was an involuntary action on his part. In other words, he couldn't stop himself. He was out before he hit the floor. So that is potentially very, very serious. You know what I mean? Because in terms of hitting his head and where he would have landed and stuff like that. So, it's a shocking way to end it, but dramatic. But it's interesting because in the first round there, when he landed that big shot, if you think about it, things just didn't work in Michael Conlon's way, did it? Because it has to be said, with the way that shot landed, had that happened even 10, 15 seconds before the round, rather than right at the end of the round, it's very possible that Lee Wood might not have made it out of the first round.
And he was still groggy. He was still groggy in the second. I didn't think he would make it out of the second after the way how it was. That's
a testament to his conditioning and his fitness and the amount of work he'd done to get himself ready for that fight. Because I'm telling you now, had there been, say, even 30 seconds left in that round, maybe even 20, maybe even 10, you know what I mean? Then he probably wouldn't have made it out of the first round. And the conversation we'd be having now would be completely different, you know? So on such things, boxing fights can change.
Yeah. Let me just give a shout out, first of all. Shout out to Harvey, DS, Punch Smollett, all of you guys in the building. Stefan, I see you all, man. Big up Nathan as well. Michael Maxwell. Shout out to all of you guys, man. Big up for being here. Great to have you here as always. But yeah, I honestly thought that Lee Wood might have been out of it before he hit the ground. And then when his head hit the ground, he kind of woke up like, whoa, like as if to get back in it. And like you said,
a few people have suggested that. Yeah, a few people said that. Yeah, that might well have been the case. He actually got woke up when he's, you know what I mean, on hitting the ground. And that has happened before. I've seen it happen several times before. So, yeah, that's a good point. But, yeah, I mean, like you said as well, it took him at least 2-3 rounds, maybe even a bit longer, to fully get his legs underneath him. So, yeah, he was basically he was fighting the first 2 or 3 rounds in a concussed state when you think about it.
Yeah. Where do you see where do you see each fighter going after this? I mean, I saw Lee Wood in the post-fight interview speaking about Santa Cruz, saying that Santa Cruz is writing him off. He said, well, let him come over here. We can make that happen. Of course, we've got Josh Warrington and Kiko Martinez fighting each other in a couple of weeks' time. So where does that leave the rest of the division? What would you like to see Lee Wood do, and Michael Condon as well? Do you know what I mean? How does he bounce back from that defeat?
Well, I think
he was winning. He was still winning. He was still up.
Yeah,
going into that 12th round.
Yeah. I mean, both players need, especially Conlon, a long rest. Because can you imagine how bad Conlon must be feeling? I mean, I know he's putting a brave face on it, saying he wants a rematch and stuff like that. But I don't think a rematch at this stage should be occupying his mind. That guy needs a long time out, because it wasn't just a knockout; it was a grueling fight. And he took a lot of punishment in there, even though he was winning. Both fighters took a lot of punishment. That was a very hard fight, very debilitating fight. The type of fight, by the way, that could put years on you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, obviously, Michael Conlon's going to fight on, but I'll be interested to see how he looked in his next fight out. So, if I was on his management team, I would be wanting to look at him very closely over the next few months seeing how he recovers, see if his cognitive functions are right, assess him in training, assess him in sparring, and maybe not be too overly ambitious in terms of a first opponent back. If you're Lee Wood and you're the winner, then obviously it's a different scenario. But even he's 33 years old now. He's got to try and make those unification fights and the big money fights. You mentioned Santa Cruz. There's no way I see Santa Cruz coming over here to fight. You know what I mean?
Nah.
Santa Cruz is one of those fighters where all throughout his career has been very what I like strategic planning. I mean, he's done a lot of the better fighters. So yeah, I don't see Santa Cruz stepping up for that fight. He's not fought at that weight as well for a while, has he?
No.
I think the obvious fight for Lee Wood would be the winner between Warrington and Martinez, which I would lean towards Warrington, and that would be a big domestic clash, wouldn't it?
What about who Nathan's saying here? He's saying Maurizio Lara. Imagine that. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, in terms of marketing and getting a big fight on, I could see Lee Wood against Warrington would be the obvious one to make. Should he come through against Martinez?
Yeah,
which I think he will, but as we've seen in boxing in recent weeks, nothing is certain. Let's face it. With Kiko Martinez, he pulled off a major upset in my view when he beat Kid Galahad. And indeed, he was way down on the cards in that fight. He was getting slapped around by all accounts until he landed those big shots. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where both fighters go from here, man. But just to end
I think Conor needs to be handled with care, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Top Rank will. I think it's Conlon that might be the one who wants to step in straight in the fire straight away. You saw after the fight, he was calling out. He wants a rematch with Lee Wood at the City Ground. He wants that. It's going to be hard for him to take 2 steps back when he feels like he should be higher in his career right now. Anyway, that's going to be difficult to tell someone like Michael Conlon.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Michael Conlon, as we said last week on the show, he's a real macho type of guy. He's a real fighter. Sometimes people like that need to be protected from themselves a little bit, because he's overly ambitious. He believes in himself. I'm sure he still does, even though his confidence would have taken a bit of a step back. But he needs to be looked after, man. And someone needs to sit him down and say, listen, Michael, we understand how you're feeling, it was a bad loss and all the rest of it. But they really do need to take some due care and attention to this guy. We've seen this story before in boxing, haven't we? Where a guy has a fight like this and they're never quite the same again. Sometimes it's both fighters. I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case with Michael Conlon.
No, it's the case. Trust me, it's the case. Both of them would have.
I'm saying I hope that's not the case. I hope it ain't. Because we see what kind of talent he's got, and you hope that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, a part of him would have been left in there on Saturday. There's no doubt about it, because it wasn't just a knockout. That was a grueling 12-round fight that he went. He was going from about round 6, 7, and he took. Even though he was winning the fight, I had him a few rounds up, even going into that last round. But he was taking a bit of punishment there. So I would imagine that, that was a hard, grueling fight that would have left its toll on him a little bit, both of them, but especially Conlon. So I hear what you're saying in terms of wanting to get back in there and that, but you do need to be a bit careful, because if you go in there and you're overly ambitious and it happens again, that will probably be the end of his career next time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel sorry for Conlon, man, because he gave it his all. Well, they both did. First and foremost, we need to say that both of them showed absolute tremendous heart and guts. But Lee Wood's size and his extra, strength and condition, he was the big man when he going into this fight. And it showed, didn't it? He was able to push Conlon back right from the start, even though he'd got knocked down. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, fantastic fight, man. Great atmosphere. It just, for that moment, after obviously we found out that Conlon was okay, it just made me remember how much I love the sport. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of fuckeries that go on in boxing, but that night there, we could just sit back and enjoy a great fight. And nice to see them two come together at the, afterwards, the day after. They both took a picture together. So that was good to see. Do you know what I mean? That's just what the sport's about, man. So yeah, Francisco saying it here, Wood and Conlan probably need some time off and maybe a soft touch after that fight. But either of them versus Lara will be great. Stefan has said here, lots of boxing this week. 2 Probellum cards, a BT card, a DAZN card, and a top rank card. Let's talk about obviously the big story that happened this week. Of course, with Virgil Ortiz pulling out of his fight with Michael McKinson. Got diagnosed. I'm not going to try and pronounce the word, but I'm not sure what it is. But it seemed pretty serious, man. He was hospitalized. I'm not sure if he's still in hospital or not. But yeah, Virgil Ortiz pulls out. Then we've got a new opponent here for Michael McKinson. What's the guy's name? I've forgotten the guy's name, but they've got a replacement for him. Laurie, what's your thoughts on it, man? I mean, I was a bit disappointed. I was really looking forward to seeing, McKinson challenge Ortiz.
Yeah, listen, it was very disappointing because we're all fans of Virgil Ortiz. He's one of the top welterweights around today, certainly one of the top young fighters in that division, himself and Boots Ennis. So, yeah, I was very much looking forward to see how he got on. And obviously, Michael McKinson's a British fighter, so there was an extra interest there. So naturally, we were disappointed when we heard that Virgil Ortiz had to pull out. I think what's the illness? Rhabdomyolysis or something like that. And basically,
what is that for people that don't know? What do you know what that is?
Well, I did a little bit of reading up. I'd never heard of it before. So me being me, when I saw the injury, or when I seen the word, I did a little bit of research, and basically, it's I think it's best described as it's a breakdown of your skeletal muscle fibers, and when those fibers are broken down, the contents from that leak into your circulatory system. And it's quite a serious injury, It can lead to kidney failure and it can lead to long-term damage.
Really?
And in some extreme cases, it can be fatal. So it's not no joke, this thing, you know what I mean? And it's a long-term condition as well. It's not something that you can just shrug off like that. It could come back, if you see what I mean. It's, you know what I mean? You can recover from it in the short term, but it can happen again. So it's something that you'll probably need to be watchful for the rest of his career. And there was certain stories emanating from that pullout in terms of him maybe not making the weight for the fight and stuff like that. So was he trying to crash the weight? Had he left the weight cut a bit too late? Was he approaching the weight cut wrong? It would seem to suggest that. So I don't know. Is he too big now for welterweight? Because I think this is the second time now he's had trouble making the weight now, isn't it? Virgil Ortiz. So he's a young guy and he's big for the weight. I think he's about 5'10". And if you see him, I mean, I saw a picture of him in week next to Brian Castano, who's a junior middleweight. Yeah? He'd been doing some sparring with Castano. And he looked as big, if not bigger than Brian Castano. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, that can be that. Well, yeah. I mean, it just reminded me like when Josh Taylor when Crawford was about to fight Porter. And, he bumped into Josh Taylor. He saw how much bigger Josh Taylor looked than Crawford at the time. Do you know what I mean? And he's a guy that's moving up in weight. So are you saying you think maybe the right time might be for Ortiz to move up in weight?
It might be something that they have to consider because he can't go through this again, you see. And with this rhabdomyolysis thing, I think one of the causes of that illness can be when they say it's overexertion. So it could have been through maybe him training so hard to make the weight that the body just kind of gave out on him a little bit.
That's what Francisco's saying here. He's saying apparently rhabdo occurs when damaged muscle tissue releases proteins and electrolytes into the blood. The causes are crush injury, overexertion, alcohol abuse, and certain medicines and toxic substances. This thing seems quite serious, man.
Well, yeah, like I said, it is a serious injury that can, in some extreme cases, lead to fatality. So You got to take this type of thing serious, man. You know, what I mean, which is why I said if he's going to have this type of trouble making the weight, then he might have to consider, especially him being a young man. What is he, 24 years old now?
He's
He
young,
might have
yeah.
to say, he might have to say to himself, my body's just outgrown welterweight.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to Virgil Ortiz as well, he said that he sees himself moving up to 160, maybe even 168 in the future. So it could be that his body's just growing out of making 147. That does happen.
Yeah.
You know, because it's fun thing about making weight, because when you're at a certain age as well and you're training, as much as you're trying to slim down and lose weight, the body is getting bigger at a certain point, isn't it? You're filling out, you're getting your man strength, and you're growing. Your musculature is growing. Mate, you're not in height, obviously, but your musculature is growing. So he's expanding a little bit, you know what I mean? So he's there trying to shrink it down, but naturally his body's filling out. Yeah. So there's that dynamic, man. He might have to think about moving up in weight.
Stefan says here, David Diamante would overcome Rabdo in about 6 days. There were talks about, you know, how shocked a lot of people were that David Diamante recovered pretty quickly from the motor. So I was shocked here. I thought he'd be out for a long time, man. But, you know, he's back in it. Fair play to him. It's good to see him back too. But
yeah,
I thought he'd be out for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, when we first heard about the nature of the accident, you thought, wow, you know what I mean? Is he ever going to make it back to doing what he does so well again? But yeah, like you said, it's good to see him back. I mean, look at Errol Spence. He's actually fighting again. When he saw the pictures of his injuries after that car crash he had, a lot of people, even people like Bob Arum, was going on the record and saying he'll never fight again. And yet there he was, not only fighting again, but taking on top contenders like Danny Garcia and beating him. Now he's defending his version of the world title, looking to unify against Jordanis Uga. So that's been a dramatic recovery as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Well, we'll see how it goes. But I'm happy that Michael McKinson is still able to fight on the show, man. You know, he was putting in the work. He was really looking forward to this opportunity. Obviously, he was really chomping at the bit to have a go at Virgil Ortiz, although I wouldn't have given him much of a chance. Fair play to him for you know, really being up for it. He's still going to be on the card. Blair Robbs and Alexis Rocha will be the main event now. So, yeah, the show's still going on, which is good. What's your thoughts on the other shows taking place this weekend? I mean, we've got David Avanesyan in action defending his European welterweight strap. We got Regis Prograis. I wanted to get your opinion on that as well. On he'll be fighting Tyrone McKenna. Sonny Edwards is in action. But Regis Prograis, go to him quickly. Just, you know, a couple of weeks ago, you were telling me that you were quite disappointed with how his career has stagnated since that Josh Taylor fight. This Tyrone McKenna fight, are you going to be interested in that by any means? Good to see Prograis back out there, or is it disappointing that? Do you think Tyrone McKenna will give him enough of a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Regis Prograis just needs to get back in there, doesn't he? I think I was correct in saying that I think his career's kind of stagnated to a certain degree. That may or may not have been his fault, but he definitely needs to get back in the ring. So him getting back in the ring, it's not the best opponent when you consider the level that he was at, but we have to also take into account his first time fighting for a couple of years now, whatever. And yeah, man, he needs to get some work. And Tyrone McKenna is the kind of fighter that will go in there and give it his all. So I'm not expecting a long fight. But I am expecting McKenna to test him while he still remains upright, put it that way. I can't see McKenna beating Prograis on points. So I would imagine McKenna's going to go in there with the attitude that he's got to try and, you know, inflict some serious damage on Prograis if he's got a chance of winning, because I don't think boxing moving is going to work. So it could be exciting while it lasts, because McKenna can hit a little bit and he is game.
Should Regis Prograis win, do you look at him as, I mean, Josh Taylor is expected to move up. Do you see Regis Prograis as probably the natural successor at 140? I mean, you've still got Ramirez, who won the other day. You've got other fighters at 140 that are not really, they're quite unheralded, but, you know, they are dangerous. I mean, 140 is a slept-on division, really, when you look at the challenges there. Who would be, in your mind, be in the best position to take over that when Josh Taylor does move up? Of course, Jack Catterall will be looking to get his shot as well again.
Yeah, man. Listen, man, there's some serious talent at 140. I mean, we spoke about Prograis, you spoke about Catterall. If you look across the pond, you've got guys like Gary Antoine Russell, who's looked very impressive. You know what I mean? And there are other guys out there as well that, you know what I mean? All of these guys, they're all in the shake-up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say Prograis a shoe-in, although you would have to look at him and say he's one of the guys that you would expect to emerge. But yeah, man, that is going to be, now that Josh Taylor's, and then you got Ramirez as well. He had a good win the other day. Oh yeah, he's back. He's got to be considered one of the top guys at that weight. So yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's plenty of talent there, and then you got some of the guys from lightweight who might move up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Then of course,
your mate Teofimo Lopez was talking about moving up to 140. He can't make lightweight anymore, so he's in the mix.
Devin Haney's teased the idea of moving up as well.
Yeah, Devin Haney. I mean, he's trying to get the fight with Kambosos. Why that fight has not been made yet? It's beyond me.
We're going to talk about that, but yeah, we're going to talk about that as well.
If he can't get a fair shake at 135, because he is big for the weight, I could see him maybe moving up to 140 as well. So yeah, we'll see. But there's plenty of things to go around.
Let's just say all these problems have been created, you know, with the Devin Haney, George Kambosos situation. The fact that, you know, Kambosos, one day I see it's looking like he's going to fight Haney. The next day, it seems like he's going to fight Loma. It's just getting to a point now where it's becoming tedious for me. And I just have to question, man. Again, I'm going to have to back Haney on this. I don't understand why the guy can't get the fight, man. Like, he's trying to get.
You know what it is, right? I cannot understand.
I'm not happy about it. It's very disappointing for me.
Yeah, for me, I cannot understand this obsession of Kambosos to fight Lomachenko. Like,
nor can I.
You've got Devin Haney in there, right? He's got that last remaining belt that you need. Yeah, whether George Kambosos has got anything to say on how that belt was acquired, whether you want to call him email champion or whatever. Devin Haney as the other belt, the WBC belt, arguably the most prestigious of all of those belts. Surely you would want to acquire that and yourself the undisputed, unified champion of the world, right? And that fight has been mentioned from the minute Kambosos won the title. That was the fight that everyone was saying, yeah, how about they fight, unify the belts, have one champion, and that's it. And Kambosos initially seemed to be all up for that, didn't he? He gave interviews whereby he was entertaining the fight, subject to, you were saying, to the right deal to be made, and you know, he wants to fight in Australia. Devin Haney, from what I can see, right, has agreed to all those conditions, and yet here we are, and the fight has not been signed yet or nothing. And now there's talk of Lomachenko. Then there was talk of Lomachenko getting the fight, but now with the war going on in Ukraine, he's talking about waiting until Lomachenko's freed from the obligations concerning Ukraine. So I just don't get it. In the meantime, the title's just sitting there doing nothing. Yeah. Surely the obvious fight, especially now with what happened with Lomachenko, make the fight with Haney. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. I have to say, man, and I didn't think I would say this, but I am saying it. I'm disappointed with Kambosos, man, because he appears to be the problem. It's not Haney. Haney clearly wants to fight. Eddie Hearn's been trying to make the fight, but for some reason, they just can't seem to get it done. It seems to be all this back and forth. And then all, as usual with boxers nowadays, all the stuff on social media. I mean, getting Kambosos posting all this footage of him in the gym doing these 100-mile-an-hour combinations. That's fine and dandy. But we want to know when you're fighting. Don't want to see the 6-punch combos on the pads. I want to see you in the ring.
I just think with Devin Haney, man, like this guy, he called out Lomachenko. The WBC screwed him over there, and then they elevated Lomachenko to the franchise champion. He didn't get that shot. Do you know what I mean? He's called out everyone else. A lot of people are reluctant to get in the ring with him unless they're paying a lot of money to fight him. This we're here with Kambosos, like you said, it was all pretty much set in stone to happen after Devin Haney beat Jojo Diaz. We all thought that was going to be next. It's not. I'm just like, I don't get what's going on, because you'll come on Twitter now and you'll see other fans talking about this. They'll say, oh, why would he be scared of Haney? He's going for Loma. He's doing this. Like, look, man, like, why not Haney? Like, what? Is Loma the bigger deal? Like, what's going on here? I don't get it. If Haney's that beatable, why are you not fighting him?
Yeah, apparently he's got no chin and he can't punch. So well, beat him then. You know what I mean? Beat this man.
Is it a case of
his notion that he's the best lightweight?
Is it a case of Lou DiBella just trying to shop his guy around to the highest bidder? Do you know what I mean? Is it a case of Lou DiBella just saying, look, man, we hold the cards, so we're going to shout, we're going to push him out we're going to try and get the most money for him. And then you could say he's doing his job. Is it that?
I couldn't believe that at one stage they were entertaining Ryan Garcia. What has he done to deserve a title shot?
Yeah, but like I said, are they shopping him around for the most money? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
Because if he is, then you could say, look, man, he's doing his job for his fighter. He don't owe Haney nothing. He's just trying to get the most money for his fighter. Do you think it might be that? Would you give him a pass for that if that's what they're doing?
No, not really. Make the fights, man. Make the fights. And it just sounds that he's taking a long way around to ducking Haney. That's what it seems to me. Maybe it's one of them where he would rather lose to Lomachenko, one of the so-called all-time greats. And he would say, well, at least I lost to Loma. It could be one of them moves, you know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I mean, when I heard that they was entertaining Ryan Garcia, that really did it for me. What has he done to deserve a title shot? Yeah. What has Ryan Garcia has earned a reputation over the past year or two for pulling out of fights, and all of a sudden he's talking about fighting Ryan Garcia. I guess you could say that he was using Ryan Garcia's name as leverage. I don't know. It's possible.
He's another one that ducked Devin Haney. But big up WM here in the chat. Shout out to you, bro. Good to see you here. He's put here, he despises Hearn. He's talking about Lou DiBella, which is why he has cut him out of negotiations and gone direct to the zone. The irony is that the Loma fight, in WM's opinion, is harder and he loses to him more easily. So does that emphasize your point, Laurie, that maybe he'd rather lose to a Loma than a Haney?
I'm not sure if it's a hard fight, to be honest. I'm really not, because, you know what I mean, Loma is not unbeatable. I mean, let's be honest, man. Teofimo beat him, you know what I mean? And Kambosos beat Teofimo. Now, I know what you're going to say. A beats B doesn't automatically means that A will beat C and so forth. And yes, I get that. But no one's beaten Haney yet. You know what I mean? So why not? I don't know, man. I just find it bizarre, because initially it seemed that Kambosos was open to the fight. If you go back and see some of the interviews they did together, they were talking openly about fighting each other. Now it seems to be a different story, and I don't know why. If you listen to Devin Haney and Eddie Hearn, they're saying they've agreed to all of Kambosos' demands, i.e. the fight in Australia, the purse splits and all that. You know what I mean? They've agreed to that. So why isn't this fight being made? And now you're going to fight Lomachenko, which initially I was disappointed. Not because Lomachenko is not a great fighter, but I just wanted the title to be unified. But okay, you're talking about Lomachenko, but now he can't fight because he's incapacitated through to the situation with the war. So the obvious thing to do is say, right, these two fight, Kambosos and Haney, and then the winner defend against Loma. And to be fair to Haney, he said, yeah, I'll agree to all of that. And yet he said, you know what I mean? It's bizarre, man. It really is. And it's just disappointing. And it's another reason why some of the outsiders, some of the casuals who follow boxing always express their disappointment at this kind of thing. The best not fighting the best. It's this type of thing that frustrates everybody, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. DS has said here, and this is something that you've said to me off the record, actually, but we can bring it on record now because DS has mentioned it here. And he said, I like Eddie Hearn, but he's let down a few of his guys in terms of getting the big fights. You have a look at it. Demetrius Andrade hasn't landed him a big fight yet. AJ he's landed in big fights, but he didn't get him the Wilder fight or the Fury fight. Let's be real, that didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Who else is there? There's other guy. He didn't get Kell Brook the Khan fight. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so there has been occasions, as good as Eddie Hearn is, he he hasn't been able to get his fighters the big fights all the time.
That's a good point. And it's also been noted in America by some of the boxing YouTube channels over there that Eddie Hearn spends far too much time sucking up to Canelo to be worrying about people like Andrade and Devin Haney and one or two other people. You know what I mean? They said that he's got a preoccupation first with Canelo and with AJ, and that's to the detriment of some of or many of his other fighters. And I would say that there is some truth in that, to be honest, because I can't understand why that fight hasn't been made. And then, like you said, if you look at Dimitri Andrade's career, you have to say, man, that it's been lackluster in terms of the fights and the opponents he's been able to secure. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think there is some truth in that, unfortunately. Eddie Hearn likes to label himself as the best promoter in the world. Well, this is not in keeping that type of status, is it really? Is it?
Yeah. I mean, he can't. I mean, he's done a lot for the game. He's put on some great, huge events, great fights. But, you know, some of those there, you have to know he hasn't got everyone.
He's lost a couple of purse bids to Frank Warren, with Dillian White.
Good couple of
then
times.
He lost to Zach Parker, Andrade purse bid, didn't he?
Yeah, Andrade again.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's not great. Recently, it's not been great.
Yeah. Francisco says here, Haney is very talented. I appreciate him a lot. He's still young and he may become great. But at the moment, I don't see why the other lightweights are so scared of him. They would be competitive fights. I mean, they're all good
I don't
fights.
see why either. But at the end of the day, they don't seem to want to fight. Teofimo, when he had the belts, didn't want to fight him. Lomachenko before that. The only reason why the franchise belt was created was apparently because Lomachenko was reluctant to fight Haney and requested the franchise status. Right? And then, like we said, Teofimo beats Loma. We're thinking, yeah, Teofimo versus Haney. That don't get made. You know what I mean? Kambosos beats Teofimo. He's entertaining the fight at first, and now months later, we're nowhere near getting a fight being made. You do have to ask yourself the question, what is it? And then in the meantime, the knockers of Haney say, you know what I mean, he's got a suspect chin, he can't punch, he's not excited, rare. I would have thought if he's that bad, beat him, get him out of the way, unify all the belts. It should be an easy unification then, shouldn't it, really? Homecoming fight.
Ryan Garcia is another one. Became, you know, as a challenger to fight for the belt. Beat Luke Campbell. The next step was supposed to be Devin Haney. You didn't take that. You showed no ambition of taking that either. Like, do you know what I mean? So,
well, he's actually on the record as saying that he's not ready for that Haney fight yet. And then when he got exposed for that, then he tried to say it's because he doesn't sell.
Yeah, for those people out there that are going to come, because there'll be people watching this that are going to say that, oh, Haney, man, he's not great. He don't sell. We don't do this. That is just it's the weakest excuse, man. I hate it. I hate that excuse. Like, they do that with Andrade as well. Oh, he's boring. Yeah. Oh, he don't sell nothing. Well, fight the guy then. He's got a belt. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. If he's that easy, get the belt off him and then you can go on to bigger and better things. That's the terminology they like to use in boxing. I'm going to go on to bigger and better things. Get the belt off him. If he's that easy, he's got no chin, he's got no punch, got no heart, whatever. Take him over to Australia. Take him over to Australia with your own crowd there. It should be a nice, easy homecoming fight. Beat him, get all the belts. Then you could parade all the belts on your arms and say, I am the undisputed unified champion, and now I will fight Loma.
Yep. It's one of my pet hates. There's a lot of pet hates in the sport, but that's one of them, man. The cop-out and the excuses. You know what I mean? They'll say, oh, you don't fight him. You don't bring nothing to the table. He's boring. But then they'll happily justify, you know, Triple G against the Polish dude. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's he done? You know what I'm saying? It's just... It's really, that stuff really grates me, man. I don't like that. And I just feel sorry for Haney. I want to see him get a shot. I'm not saying he'll win all of them. I'm just saying I see a guy that wants to fight everyone and people are not fighting him.
And often what you'll get with young fighters is that they will talk that talk, but they won't walk the walk. So they will say, they'll proclaim themselves to be the best, but they've not indicated a willingness to fight guys. But let's be honest, man, Haney, so far anyway, has expressed a willingness to fight the guys that I think is authentic. He's challenged Loma. He's challenged Tank. He's challenged Gary Russell Jr. He's challenged Kambosos. He's challenged Teofimo. None of those 5 guys I've just mentioned have fought him or stepped up to the plate. So it's bizarre. And then on the other hand, all of these guys will say the same thing. Oh, he can't punch. Oh, you know what I mean? He's got a suspect chin. Well, just if it's that easy, beat him. Get rid of him, get him out of the way. And you can say, look, I exposed him. He's a fraud. I told you, didn't I? But none of them want to do it. I wonder why. I wonder why that is. I genuinely do wonder why.
Shout out to Jojo Diaz, man, who did agree to step up. You know what I mean? Moving on for like fighting on the DAZN show, Golden Boy fighter, went over to DAZN to challenge Haney. Wasn't successful, but put up a good effort. Do you know what I mean? Didn't have to really, but he did. So, you know, shout out to him. But the rest of the guys, man, I don't respect it. I don't. Yeah. But we'll see. Big up West Coast.
One thing I would say about Eddie Hearn, though, is that I know that Devin Haney is apparently getting very well paid at the moment under that deal that he has. So that is one good thing. Whether that was something that Eddie negotiated or Bill Haney, his dad, and Devin Haney negotiated, who knows? Well, they would have had to negotiate it between the 3 of them as well. So that's
big
one.
Big up West Coast Boxing here. He's put here Haney versus Shakur is what I want to see, or Jamal Charlo against Boo Boo Andre. Listen, man, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see any of them. Shakur, obviously, they're not in the same weight division. Shakur's got his own. He's got his own challenge to deal with against Oscar Valdez. Huge fight taking place next month. Looking forward to that. Jamal Charlo against Boo Boo. I've kind of given up on that. I don't even think that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, Jamal Charlo, I mean, this is another one. I mean, we were hoping that he was going to fight Canelo. At least I was. We feel slightly different. Then the Jamal Charlo Benavidez fight was muted. That didn't get made. That's disappointing. Then I find out this week that he's going to fight Magic Selecki, the Polish guy.
We're gonna get onto.
When I saw that, I thought, bro,
we're gonna get onto. We're gonna get onto that. We'll get onto that after this.
But one thing I would just say as well about fights, and this is something that I said. We're talking about when people say, "Oh, Canelo fights 3 times a year," or this and that. But I did say at the time that when you are in Canelo's position, you can dictate who you fight and when you fight. And that does make a big difference, bro. Trust me. Yeah. Because he can literally, they all want to fight the guy. So naturally, he can navigate, fight who he wants, when he wants. So it's guaranteed work. A lot of other boxers don't have the luxury of that. So I think that's an important point to be made as well.
Yep, there you go, Francisco. Laurie mentioned Canelo 42 minutes in. Yeah, I mean, he has mentioned Canelo Alvarez.
Well, isn't he not the king of boxing? The face of boxing, pound for pound, #1. Why wouldn't we mention it? Some would argue that why did we wait 42 minutes in to mention the king of boxing? There you go.
Gary says here, Charlo's next opponent is a joke. And while we're at it, let's have a look at this PBC Showtime schedule that did get released this week. That was going to be my next topic of discussion, where you can elaborate a bit more, Laurie, on the Charlo fight and the other fights as well. So let me share my screen first of all and bring up the schedule so you guys can see it. Let me know when you can see.
Yep, I can see that. Yep.
Okay, cool. So here it is. Yeah, we'll go through them one by one. The spring-summer schedule released by Showtime Boxing. 2 of them on pay-per-view. Errol Spence Jr. and Yordenis Ugas, and Tank Davis against Rolando Romero. Don't know why that's on pay-per-view. But anyway, let's start off with the first one here. Tim Tszyu, up-and-coming super welterweight, looking very good against Terrell Gaucher. Gaucher, yeah, that's how you pronounce the surname.
Gaucher, yeah.
Gaucher, yeah. I like Terrell, but like Tim Tszyu's on the up. He seems to be on the low, getting a bit on the down. What's your thoughts on it, Laurie?
Yeah, with Gaucher is quite interesting. I actually saw him fight in the Olympics, didn't he? He fought at London, 2012. Turned pro. He's never really hit the heights.
Nah.
He lost to Erislandy Lara. He's had a couple of wins, but he's never really hit the heights. Tim Tszyu, on the other hand, I've heard a lot about him. I've only seen snippets of his fights. But they like him a lot in Australia. Obviously, he's the son of Costa Tszyu, the great lightweight, Russian turned Australian. Hence why Tim Tszyu fights out of Australia. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one, man. Because we have good how Tim Tszyu is. I mean, I've noticed that Tim Tszyu is quite ambitious as well. He's been calling out people saying he wants his title shot. So I'm looking forward to see how that fight goes. I mean, based on current form and expectation, you would expect Tim Tszyu to win. But I guess it's how he looks in winning, isn't it, really? So, yeah, I'm interested to see how that fight goes.
Erickson Lubin against Sebastian Fundora. What's your thoughts on that one?
This is an excellent star matchup because I don't know if you've seen Sebastian Fundora, but he's a junior middleweight and he's 6'5". I don't know how he manages to make the weight. Erickson Lubin is a good fighter, but the star matchup could be very difficult for him. It may take him a while to come to terms with the fighting style of Fundora. Although I have seen Fundora fight a few times, and he's one of those guys, tall guys, that actually gives up his height because he elects to fight in what they call this Mexican style, which is quite aggressive, and he likes to throw a lot of body shots and so forth. So he's actually coming down to the opponent's level in terms of height to get his punches off. He doesn't fight tall and use the jab. Not in the fights I've seen anyway. So I'm leaning towards Lubin in that fight, but it's going to take him a while, I reckon, to get to grips with the style. But Lubin is a very good fighter. He's an outstanding amateur. He fought Jamel Charlo, didn't he, for the junior middleweight title?
He wasn't ready. He weren't ready.
Yeah, he weren't ready. But then, you know what? In a way, I'm sure looking back into it, it's probably better to get blitzed in around that way when you get caught with one shot and you're out, rather than take a sustained beating the way, say, Michael Conlan did. You know what I mean? So he seems to have bounced back well. He's got a new trainer. Yeah, and he's looking good. He's probably in the form of his career right now. He's punching hard. And that'll be a hard fight, don't get me wrong. Fundora will test him. But I reckon Lubin is the more skilled of the two. He probably hits harder, but I think style-wise, you think about it, if you're 5'9", 10", which is what Lubin is, and you're fighting a guy that's 6'5", that's going to take a while to come to that height. So, yeah, but I'm leaning towards Lubin for a late stoppage.
So let's move on. Errol Spence fighting Yordenis Ugas. 3 of the 4 welterweight belts will be on the line. April 16th, it will be on Showtime pay-per-view. Good to have the truth, the big fish, back in the ring against Yordenis Ugas, who is coming off that win over Manny Pacquiao. We knew about this for a while. Laurie, your thoughts on it, just quickly?
Very competitive fight, man. Yordenis Ugas, talented fighter. Obviously, he ended Manny Pacquiao's career. Should have a win as well over Sean Porter. I thought he was robbed in that fight. I used the word robbed, you know what I mean, with purpose, because it was a robbery in my view. There's no way Sean Porter won that fight. And Errol Spence, man, I mean, this is going to be a very difficult fight. I thought Errol Spence in his previous fight against Garcia looked good. I think some people were in a bit overcritical of him when you think it was his first fight back after a very serious car crash. For him to come and, let's face it, I wouldn't say dominate Garcia, but he won that fight fairly comfortably against a good opponent. Danny Garcia is a tough guy who can punch. And I thought Errol Spence was good, but he's going to have to step the level up another level to beat Ugas. But I think he can do that. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, but I'm going for Spence on points.
Big one on May the 14th. Jamel Charlo against Brian Castano 2. One of the fights that you were hoping for to take place this year. I remember it was in your top 5 fights, I believe, for this year.
Yeah.
It's happening. Undisputed light middleweight. All the belts will be on the line. Great fight, you know what I mean? Great. Considering how good their first fight was, it's great that we've got this in the books. Jerome Ennis on the undercard as well, by the way.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. There could be fireworks. In fact, I'm pretty sure it will be fireworks, man. Especially after seeing the interview with Jamel Charlo the other day and looking how he does. And he's talking about how he grieved he feels, how he's been treated by Castano and his team, the allegations of steroids and stuff like that. So, but that being said, man, Castano can fight. Let's not get it twisted, man. You know what I mean? This guy's good. It's going to be a great fight. It's really, I have to give you my prediction on that fight nearer the time when I see how those guys are coping with weight and stuff like that.
Okay.
At the moment,
so you're on the fence with that one right now.
I am on the fence because that last fight, man, could have gone either way.
I thought, I thought Castano did enough to win it, man.
Castano would have got the fight. Nobody could complain. But then Charlo had his moments as well. So it was a real good fight and can't wait to see that again.
The week after, your boy, David Benavidez, will take on David Lemieux in for the WBC super middleweight interim title. Canelo holds that belt. Benavidez and Lemieux. I mean, Lemieux, entertaining fighter, will be entertaining while I'll let you talk on it, Laurie.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what you were starting to say there. I mean, Lemieux will come in. He's a big puncher. He's a tough guy. But come on now. You know what I mean? But then Benavidez he may take a while to get to grips with the style of Lemieux and to negotiate, to feel the punches of Lemieux, feel how hard he hits at that weight. Because Lemieux is going to be very small super middleweight, isn't it? He was a small middleweight.
He was.
So unless he's bringing that power up with him, which is kind of difficult, let's be honest, I can't really see this fight being anything other than a one-sided beatdown.
Yeah.
And a stoppage for David Benavidez by about 7-8 rounds max.
Yeah.
If he goes 8 rounds, I'll be surprised.
Yeah. The week after, Tank Davis against Rolando Rolly. I'm just calling him Rolly. Tank Davis and Rolly on pay-per-view. You know, this was supposed to happen last year. It didn't happen. There were some allegations against Rolly. They've since been dropped. So now he's got his opportunity to fight Tank Davis. Listen, the build-up might be something to talk about, but
I think the build-up will be better than the fight.
Yeah.
No, but then having said that, I mean, Rolly Romero, he's one of those guys, man. He will go in there and let his hands go because he believes in his power. And I've seen a couple of his fights. In fact, the other day I was watching that fight he had with Jackson Martinez and where he was given an absolute gift decision. But the one thing I did notice about him is that he does fight aggressively. He does try to land his big bombs. So I'm assuming he's going to try and do that with Tank. Now, if he does that with Tank, it could be entertaining while it lasts. But I think Tank, skills-wise, is on another level to him, man. And plus, Tank hits harder than him as well. And again, I can't see this fight past the halfway mark. I think Romero probably banking on landing that one shot that might turn things around. But outside of that, man, to me, it's another one-sided beatdown.
Just quickly, man, when are they going to... Listen, man, it's good that Tank Davis has been active. You know, he fought recently and he's fighting again, you know, got another fight scheduled. But when are they really just going to say, you know what, man, let's throw him in there with Haney. Let's throw him in there with Garcia. Let's throw him in there with... To be fair, he was on the Garcia fight. But when do you think they're going to really put their pedal to the metal and just say, look, let's put Tank in the biggest and best fight available? Or do you think that's not going to happen?
It might not happen at all because if you listen to Ellaby, the way he talks, you know what I mean? He's already doing it now with this fight with Rolly, saying about how the tickets are going to get sold out and Tank is a star no matter who he fights. That's the mantra they've got.
Yeah, well, it didn't work out in the last fight.
Yeah, but that's the business model that they're using with regards to Tank, man. They're very, 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 very winnable fights against opponents and just try and hype it up and hope that it sells out because Tank, let's face it, Tank is an attraction.
Yeah.
And they want to keep that gravy train going for as long as they can. So if you look at it from Ellaby and Floyd's perspective, they're not going to want to put him in with anyone that they see as too much as a threat. Someone that's just enough of a threat to sell tickets, but not somebody who's a threat enough to actually beat him. That's the model that they're pursuing with Tank. They're just milking the gravy train, basically. And I can't see them stop doing that anytime soon.
Looking forward to this one here, June the 4th. Stephen Fulton Jr. against Danny Roman. Unified WBO and WBC super bantamweight belts will be on the line. Good fight.
Yeah, good fight. Looking forward to seeing Stephen Fulton, man. Really impressed with him. Doesn't get enough of shine that he should get, man. He's definitely one of the best young, I wouldn't say up and coming because he's a world title holder now, but he's definitely one of the best fighters around at the moment.
I agree.
Again, the little guys don't get enough love, really, do they?
No.
Because if he was at a higher weight, I'm sure he would have got more attention by now. But yeah, man, looking forward to that fight. I think he'll do the business. and I think he'll impress.
You was about to go in on this one before I said, let me just go through the whole schedule with you first. But here we go. Jamal Charlo against Magic Seletsky. And look at the disrespect here, man. How do you not even put his picture? That is disrespectful. That is very disrespectful. I didn't like that, man. I mean, you're telling me you can't get a picture of the guy to put up on the graphic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and I would say this as well. That fight there is by far the worst fight of those listed.
Yeah.
And and don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of the Benavidez Lemieux, but at least Lemieux's a former world champion. Lemieux can punch. And Lemieux has fought to elite levels. He took on Triple G and people like that. But this guy, Seletsky, he's just known for guys beating up on him. Triple G, Danny Jacobs, God knows else. You know what I mean? Listen, man, he's a tough guy. He will do his best, I'm sure. But come on, man. Charlo should be fighting better guys like this at this stage of his career. It's as simple as that.
Play devil's advocate again. Should we be, you know, it is well known that they did offer the fight to Munguia. They were on it. Well, Charlo was on it. Munguia was on it. The networks couldn't come to an agreement, which is just shocking to me. That is the reason why that fight is not happening. So I guess
you're not going to tell me there's not better super middleweights out there better than this one, man.
Yeah,
middleweights. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's better fights can be made. Yeah. So yeah, man, I'm disappointed in that one.
Caleb Plant, you could have got it. I mean, Caleb, he's fighting Darrell now, isn't he?
But,
yeah.
Listen, man, I'm sure a little cursory search through the rankings, I'm sure I could have cut, and you could have, and anybody that follows boxing could have come up with at least 5 or 6 opponents better than Magic Seletsky. So that fight there is easily the worst one of that schedule.
Last one here, July the 9th, Mark Magsayo against Ray Vargas. Didn't Magsayo have, you know, there were some allegations leveraged towards him, wasn't there?
No, I don't think it was him, was it?
No, it wasn't Magsayo. No, it wasn't Magsayo. Sorry, I apologize.
Someone out of that same camp.
Yeah, it wasn't Magsayo.
Yeah, it was a Filipino guy out of the same camp, but it wasn't Magsayo.
No, it wasn't.
Magsayo can count himself. Actually, no, maybe not fortunate because he did win the fight against Gary Jacobs. But not Gary Jacobs. Gary Russell Jr. Sorry, I'm getting my names mixed up. Sorry. So I wouldn't say he was lucky because he won the fight, but it has to be said it wasn't a very good performance. So he'll be looking for something far more impressive and dominant against Ray Vargas, who's, let's face it, has probably seen better days now.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that Magsayo is going to get the win and he's going to look good in doing it. Not especially excited by that fight, but it will be entertaining while it lasts because they're both aggressive fighters who like to let their hands go. But Magsayo is a powerful dude. So I'm expecting him to win. And that opponent, I'm sure, has been selected with that in mind to make him look good and get the win, which I'm thinking that he will. So, but yeah, he didn't impress in his last fight, did he? Because he fought a one-handed Gary Russell Jr. and barely got over the line. I think he got over the line on work rate alone. And what struck me in that fight is that as soon as he realized that he couldn't knock Gary Russell Jr. out or couldn't stop him, he looked very beatable. So, you know.
Just don't know if Ray Vargas will be the guy at this stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nathan's saying that it's a solid schedule overall.
Yeah, there's some good fights there.
Yeah.
There's some very good fights there.
DS has said here, Spence is my guy, but this could be a bad fight for him, particularly after the layoff. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, because Spence seems to really want the smoke with the top guy. He don't want tune-ups. He's like, no, I want the top guys. And he had a long layoff, you know, after the accident, and then he fought Danny Garcia. Look how dominant he was over him.
Yeah.
You know,
I think Errol Spence realizes, man, that at this stage in his career, man, he's got to get those meaningful wins. You know what I mean? He's got to get those career-defining fights in because, number one, he must be outgrowing welterweight, man. He must be struggling to make the weight as well. He's big for the weight, and he's been fighting at that weight since he was an amateur. I mean, he's another one that was went to the Olympics 2012. represented his country at welterweight. You know what I mean?
Punch
And
Mullet
here we
saying,
are, 10 years later, still campaigning at the same weight. You know what I mean?
Punch Mullet saying here that I don't know who. Listen, I know who Ray Vargas is, bro. I don't think he's gonna beat Mark Maxwell. I don't.
No, he's not, man.
I don't mean I don't know who Ray Vargas is.
Listen, man, that is a very, very winnable fight for Maxwell, in my view. No disrespect, bro, but that's what we think.
Yeah.
I mean, he may prove us wrong, man. I mean, look, the way boxing's going at the moment, you know what I mean? You know, but nah, come on now.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Overall, yeah, not a bad schedule there. Some good fights, you know what I mean? I don't agree with Tank Davis and Rowley being on pay-per-view, but I can understand why. So yeah, overall, not the worst schedule in the world, man. Francisco has said here, the most competitive thing about Davis versus Romero is the wardrobe battle. At the last press conference, Romero's get-up would have made David Bowie jealous, and Tank looked like a member of Arrested Development. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Nathan is saying,
yeah, man, we will see. We will see. You know what I mean? But hey, I don't know. I mean, this guy was talking about Ray Vargas. I mean, yeah, he's unbeaten, but a lot of those fights have gone to point. He's not a puncher. I don't know, man. I just think Maxwell will be too young and too strong and energetic for him, man. You know what I mean?
Now, these guys not having it. Nathan saying he's good. You know, Punch Mullet saying
he's 35-0, so he is good. But I just listen, man. Like I said, it's no disrespect, but I saw that fight and I thought to myself straight away that Maxwell will probably be too big and strong for him. But hey, we'll see how it goes, man. Yeah. He's tall for the weight, and he can box. But maybe we are dismissing him a bit. Shall I tell you why? Because Maxwell has lost a couple of times as well already. And Maxwell, from the fights I've seen with him, he seems to run out of ideas if he can't bomb guys out. He seems to rely on his punch and his power and his strength too much. But hey, we'll see. But I would imagine Maxwell's favourite.
I'm with you, Laurie. I'm with you, man. But got a few people in the comments are they're not agreeing. Stefan thinks that Vargas will outbox Maxwell to a point swing. Like I said, being inactive, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But listen, overall, the schedule, you're happy with it altogether?
Yeah, I am. Apart from the bummer in that schedule is clearly the Jamal Charlo fight with Selecki. But hopefully Jamal Charlo is let out his frustrations on him and get him out of there early. It might be an exciting fight. Who knows? So you never can tell in boxing, really, can you?
Yeah, like I said, with that one, it's hard because
it's hard to get excited about that one, isn't it?
It's hard for me to be like, you know, because Jamal Charlo wanted Munguia. Munguia wanted Charlo. Like, that is known. This week, they both wanted it. But it was the networks that couldn't agree to that fight. So if we're being fair, if it's not down to them as to, but like you said, they could have got a better opponent than Selecki, regardless. Yeah. But listen, man, I was going to wrap it up today. We're over an hour into the show. Going to wrap it up for this week. It's been another great show. Shout out to everybody in the comments as always. You know what I mean? Hit the like button before you hit the way out. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and appreciate all the comments as always. Now, apologies once again for the lack of content on the channel over this week. It has been a manic week at work, man. Honestly, it's just been, I haven't had time to do anything. But I will be back on it next week with the videos. So look out for those. And Laurie, I'll let you close it out for this week, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for allowing me to indulge my passion, boxing, on the show. It's very cathartic after what's been happening with the football. But yeah, man, there's lots of boxing action coming up. We can't all guarantee that those fights are going to be anywhere near as good as the Lee Wood-Condon fight, but I'm sure there'll be some entertaining fights there. And yeah, look forward. Onwards and upwards, as they say. Yeah, man. Let's look forward to some more shows this week. And again, we'll be back here. Let's celebrate that at the moment, man. Boxing seems to be on the up and up, despite some of the obvious problems that we have in boxing. But at the moment, man, the shows that are being put on and the entertainment being served up is excellent. So long may it continue.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Like, sorry to carry on, but there is quite a lot. Every
Yeah.
week we've got some fights scheduled in now, so nothing for us to really complain about on that front. But yeah, listen, we'll lock it off for this week. Shout out to Francisco, DS, everybody else in the chat, and we'll catch you all next week, guys. Have a good evening, and we'll see you soon.
I'm out.